Just finished with year 11 this afternoon. That's the last period of the day. It wasn't a full class, but it was good. I had one who had been absent, so he'd missed the explanation on this, so I gave him that lesson and then helped him and another move forward in the marking out and cutting of their practice joints with their hand tools. And then we're meant to be getting electrical testing and tagging done on all our power tools. And I've been told they'll go into storerooms, but they won't look in cupboards. So I better get this stuff out of the cupboard. So that's that. Grinder, jigsaw, symmetry plane, another grinder, router, little old drop saw. Everything else is cordless. So we'll automatically test the drop saw. And there's that one there, it's not in the cupboard, so hopefully they'll see it and do it. And I don't know what day they're doing it, so I've got to make sure this is out each time. Because the last thing I want is for them to miss stuff, because this saw was last tested in 22. Oh no, next test date in 22, so they were last tested in 21. So I don't know why they've been missed for a couple of years in a row. Anyway, the class was really good. They packed up well, no fuss about it. Just sort of got on with the job, and that's the way I like classes to be. And I think there were two at TAFE today who worked pretty well. So I don't think if they'd been here there would have been much difference, because they all work well together. And I think I've got these guys tomorrow, so update from last night's traffic jam. Took me 3 hours and 20 minutes to get home from work, of total time. 40 to 50 minutes to get to the point where I was, because my trip is usually 45 to an hour depending on traffic. Where I was stopped the first time in front of the Falcon Bridge shops, it took us about 50 minutes to an hour just to go past the shops. So many people, including myself, ended up just turning off the car and sitting there because we just weren't moving. When we did finally start moving, like, the GPS just kept extending the time out for when I would get home. And so I just kept texting my wife, yeah, ETA's changed. The original ETA was 10 minutes to 7, and it should have been like 20 past 6. And then it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock. As we got closer to where the accident was, we started merging into one lane, and as it turns out, they only left one lane of the 4-lane highway open, and they were letting us go past, and then they'd stop us, and then they'd let some traffic come down, and they'd stop them, and doing that. More police cars go past us. Saw a fire brigade come down. By the time we got to where the accident was, it was just dark. From what I could see, there was only 2 cars involved, as we went past, but one of them had one of those big police marquee tents over the top of it, and a tripod set up nearby with a police photographer. Which is a strong indication that unfortunately there was a fatality in the accident, which explains why the ambulances going down had no sirens. The person might have been deceased on the scene. Driving back down this morning, as I went past it, you'd see little paint marks all over the road, obviously like spot points of where they had possible evidence, I don't know. There looked to be a forensic van there last night. There was no intersection and there was no driveway right nearby. And just based on what I could see, my guess is somebody driving up the highway was on an inner curve. I just think somebody's drifted across those middle lines. And they've had a head on. Because the car that had the tent over it, the front end of it looked completely smashed in. And that was the only part of the car you could see. The other one was off to the side of the road. The other one that I saw, he wasn't covered over. Just on 20 to 9 when I went into the driveway, and that's the time when we start getting ready for bed and do Batman's eye medicine, let him out, give him his cookie and go to bed. And my wife had already started that, because just as I was getting out of the truck, she let him out. And so instead of doing the straight to bed after that, I hung out with Batman for a little while on the couch, having a little bit of a cuddle. Before we decided, now it's time for bed, before I just fall asleep on the couch. End of period 4, I had a double with stage 5 metal. Starting up on next project, which old school dustpan. I think I made one of these at school. I made one at uni, and it's the same plan, because I'm pretty sure this was my plan from uni. It's a good second project after doing the box kits and used to doing their initial markings and cuttings. Now, I gave them all a copy of the plan, and we had pieces of paper, 300 by 300, so we could actually mark it out on paper first. I guided them through on the board. Blue lines were going to be safety edges, green lines were fold lines, red lines are cut lines. So we start out with the main big red box, draw it all up, and then say this is where we're going to cut. And the kids basically do it all on paper, and we've got the handle one as well. It gives them a good chance to see difference in folds. Like the original one has all the 5 degrees, 115 degrees, 70 degrees, so there's all of that. And then they could see it actually coming together from a flat piece. So we've got a couple of these have come out pretty well. One of them actually used his to go around the room and clean up. I was really hoping that we would get this pit done in the first hour, then we would get into the workshop and start prepping the steel for the second one, for the actual steel box. This took us close to 2 hours. They are a really difficult class to get settled. 14, 15, 16-year-old boys and one girl. 2 girls in the class, but only one was here today. I started to do my own as well, but then it's easier for me to just draw it on the board, check how they're going. Draw it on the board, check how they're going, assist kids out. Immaturity can be frustrating. And that was one of the reasons why I like to do the paper version with this sort of stuff first. And this is something you can only really do with sheet metal work. Once we get into doing stuff with the solid steel, it's going to be different. And I still don't know what projects I'm going to be doing. But this is a really good introduction. It's giving them something that they can actually take home, which is what a lot of the kids just want. They just want to make something and go home with it. So I really hope that I can have some success with these guys. I'd call that success. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 completed. Almost. One doesn't have a handle. 7, 8, no handle, but they're folded up. I had 12 here today. So 8 out of 12, that's a 66% success rate. That's pretty good, actually. That makes me feel better. Feeling as frustrated as I was, that makes me feel better. So now I think I've got them Monday. So hopefully we can get in there on Monday and start the steel ones. If there's one thing that's really annoying about being an industrial arts teacher, it's prepping materials, because it just takes time. Like, I think I started that 15 minutes into lunch. It's now 15 minutes into the period after that, so I've been doing it for half an hour. Mainly because I had to set this up, and the grinding bit, you can see these adjustment bolts here. So this bracket that they're hanging from slides back and forth. These bolts, these nuts and the bolt is the fine adjustment for this, which is the stop. Now, I had to cut the bolts off at the end because of the safety cage that they put around guillotines in schools, these super shears. the depth adjuster bolt was hitting the back of the safety cage and not allowing it to go back. I needed to cut 300 mil and it was only getting to 290. So I cut a bit over 10 mil off the bolt. That allows me to get at basically at max about 305 to 310 mil in here because of the safety cage. And these were put in to every guillotine had to have these safety cages put in after, and this is going back at least 25 to 30 years, I think 25. Yeah, because I'd already started teaching and they didn't have them on my old school. And it was because a kid at a school had cut their stuff. They then came through here around the back of their thing, bent down to pick up their timber. A kid stomped on the pedal at the front, and these bars here at the back, they're attached to the back of the blade. They came down and smacked the kid on the back of the head. So the department commissioned cages to be put onto every guillotine in the state. They came into my first school while I was working there to put the one on there. When I got here, the cage was already on them, the one that we had in the old metalwork room. And so when this one came in here, the cage was automatic. It's a frustrating point because you can't adjust that back any further, or you can't take that off to be able to put something longer through. Because just say you wanted to cut a sheet and you needed it, I don't know, 600 to build a toolbox or something like that, you couldn't do it. Just cutting those bolts short allows me to make that last bit of an adjustment. I've got this class, it's first period Monday, and I know they want to use that shear. So I'm going to help them out with that setting. They can basically come in, grab the steel, set it up here and slide it through. Because it's only narrow now, when you slide it in, it actually hits the fence and stops. And they'll be able to do the cut. The reason I didn't want them helping out with the full width cut is when I started cutting up some stuff for our very first projects, I had a student wanting to help me and he didn't press down far enough and the steel wasn't cut all the way across. It was just sort of cut about to here. This will be good. This will be good. I might cut one so they can see what it's like. That's mine. Our sheets are 4 foot wide, which means they're about 1220, 1230. These are 300 that they're going to be doing, 300 squares. So I'll get 4 out of each one. It was, I think, an 1800 mil long. Or was it 4 by 8? Might have been 24. How many have I got? 1, 2. Yeah, so I've got 8 lengths here. So it was a 12 by 2400 sheet, or a 4 by 8. So it was a little bit longer. It was like 1220 by 2430. I think I had to cut the last bit off. So there's going to be 4 pieces out of each of these. 4 8's 32. That's enough for 32. I've got, well, I had 12 today, but I think I've got 18, 19 kids in the class.